Since many of you may not have time to read through all the documentation that NILA and I have sent for our JCL report, I've included figures that were provided for us when we were at the conference in February, and just so you can see the numbers and the amount of money that does go in and out of the corporation. He is so savvy and so responsible with what Bill and his other two employees spend. And he's great at just outlining that and making sure that we're well aware of that. Because it is a costly organization. It's not a costly event to put together in addition. So another piece we've included is Bill Rivers' letter. It addresses the study that is currently being used to measure the importance of languages in our society today and in business. In addition, he's talked about the number of membership and how it's increased. And you'll see too, as you read through the letter, that there are more and more companies that are joining on with languages and the whole prospect of more language learning and the need for it. So definitely take time to read through his words. Continuing on with current legislation, right now JNCL has done a really good job at preserving funding for Title VIII. It's an old one title that was done during with the Soviet Union, and just to make certain that there are translators and there are monies available for that, especially studying in those areas in the former Soviet states. In addition, JNCL Nicholas has accomplished this continuing of funding by going to Capitol Hill, and especially during our advocacy days. That seems to broaden the reach. We get to touch on all of our legislators this way, and we can do more in those 2 days than he could throughout the entire year. Also something to consider is the new Title VI under ESSA, and there is a title in there that dictates that languages are considered a core course, they are a necessity, and that it is up to the state education associations to deliver that money to those language programs. JNCL Nicholas is going to continue to work with the Department of Ed to ensure that this money is being spent wisely and it's going to the places that it needs to go. However, the best part and the best thing that we can do when it comes to funding and advocacy is simply working at our state level. And that still remains the most important aspect. After visiting in February, that was something that was continually stated over and over again. So speaking of funding, I know that funds can be an issue, and so does NILA, in regards to Nebraska International Languages Association. And you do assist us in taking care of the membership to belong to JNCL Nicholas, which I think is extremely important. If we're going to keep languages alive, we must support the lobbyists that help us fight for that funding. Our membership is vital. You do pay for our conference fees to attend and the flight costs, and we share room. But however, we do cover our own expenditures. In other words, we take care of our own days of leave, the transportation to and from the airport in Omaha and in DC. And our flight was even grounded in St. Louis, so we had to get a hotel room for an extra night. That was covered by us. And then we take care of all the parking costs as well. I know NILA and I have both had to use personal leave because it's not considered professional leave in our districts. So we do that because we know that this is a good cause. We also have taken our own time outside of our school days to just continue work on it. We have visited representatives within the unicameral. I have personally emailed every person on the education committee only to receive the same comments each and every time, that Nebraska works differently than other states. When you pass something like the Cielo Literacy, that has to be taken up by the districts. It cannot be taken up by the unicameral. So, although that is a good piece, it's local control. It's a bad piece because we have to operate differently than any other of the states. So, after a year of actually realizing that and speaking to the right people, we've had to go a different route. So our route for the seal has to be taken district by district. And thus, that's why we had a presentation at the last NILA conference. That's why we created brochures. Each school has to adopt this, each district must, and then the school districts have to make sure that it's something that they are okay with in funding and in supporting. And then as each school district is added on, hopefully that grows. And although this will never become a law, and who knows if we will actually be shaded in or highlighted on the map, on the website of the Seal of Illiteracy, but it's something that we have to work on and make a voice for. In addition, I am in the process, and I will continue this through the summer, of making contact with each one of the schools listed in the attachment. UNL, UNK, UNO, Creighton, Donan, so on and so forth. We need to get these kids some credit. If they test out at an intermediate low, intermediate mid, intermediate higher, advanced low, they need to be thanked for this by perhaps free credit hours. Right now, as it stands, if they take the AP course and they take the AP test, they will be issued that. But any other test does not qualify underneath most of these colleges. So this summer, I will make every effort to try to get some credits, some free credits for those students. I can tell you that if the students take like a 203, a 210 in some colleges, those back credits will be issued to them if they get a C or above. So either way, that's nice to know. UNL, I do believe, and I'd have to check again, has stated that if they were to come in with the seal, the proof of it, they probably would not have to take the placement test, which is what we're hoping for. But we want to aim a bit beyond that. Let's sell this to the public and sell it to the students. I mean, let's continue their language educations. NILA and I would not have been able to get as far as we have on the seal and all the documentation if it wasn't for JCL Nicholas. We have built relationships with other states and the representatives from those other states, and this has helped us build this idea. In addition, by just attending JCL and Nicholas and it being us, we're able to go back and talk to those staffers. They recognize us. Those personal visits and stories that we share, that makes all the difference. Just like Bill Rivers mentioned, it's the personal contact that we make. And we email each and every one of them when we're done. We email them throughout the year when we need them to vote on legislation. That personal piece is huge. Could it be done with one person? I know that is a question coming from the board. You could. But when we both have personal paths that we have followed and how funding that we've both used has been used differently, we're able to combine those stories and weave them through. It's not easy to always navigate through Washington, D.C. on your own, especially when you are running and you have 30 minutes with a staffer and you have to be to the next one, within 15 minutes. It's a jog. And so could it be done on one's own? Sure. It's just so much easier when you are tag teaming. And just as an added piece, I recently emailed Representative Fortenberry. We are some votes shy in the House for funding in regards to issuing more money for Title VI and what have not. And so I have sent a personal email requesting that and also making certain that his staffer remembers us from the trip and recalling points of our conversation. So just because we do attend once a year doesn't mean that we stop advocating. We are always emailing, and I think that works better than, the personal notes. They get to the emails generally. Also, each and every time that we visit with a staffer, we invite them to our conference. This also has to be done locally. NILA has contacted Deb Fisher's office on occasion. She always seems to have a busy schedule, but we would really like to get one of these representatives at our conferences to see what happens with languages. In addition, I've also included information from Dr. Libby Gill, from the Department of Ed. She deals with English language learners, and there is a distinct possibility that she would be willing to visit any schools that are doing dual languages, that are pushing for the biliteracy piece. And she would love to see what the schools are doing. She would love footage from it. And if it's on one of her conferences, on her way to a conference, she would love to attend. So again, that's been sent to Janine to decipher to everyone else, and to get our name out and to get the Department of Ed to recognize what we're doing in our own state of Nebraska, but recognizing it nationally. And also spending time with Dr. Gill, she wanted all dual language schools to understand that there is a English learner kit, and they want schools to use as much as they can of that. If there's anything they can add to it, they want to know that. So definitely visit the website that's up there on the attachment I've included as well. Also, as stated earlier, NILA and I are still working on getting a host from Congress into our schools, a member of the National Department of Ed, just to see what we're doing with languages. We want to get a press release out concerning the Cielo Literacy, as some of these schools are forging ahead. We like to see how they're doing so that more and more schools are on board with this. And of course, showcasing those students who are attaining those seals and what it really means to them and their school districts. NILA is hoping to get it off, to get the seal going with LPS, and beginning that adoption process for the next school year. The permission slip, we do have that ready to go. It's pretty primitive, but it gets the point across is that we want parents to know that we're going to be using their name and looking at test scores so that we can see that they have achieved that. And we also just need proof and verification that students are in either a third or a fourth year or above level of the language that they are testing on. So we, in addition, would love to be at the next meeting if we just had a little bit more of a time frame there so that we could pull some more together if needed. With it being a busy graduation time, we're just unable to attend. But we also just want to continue to forge those conversations as well with districts, and that's going to take you as board members to help be role models for that in a sense. So we do have some schools that are going ahead with this. I know Candida with Millard was interested in seeing and pursuing that through. Shanna was giving her students a test as well. I know I am. In the process of just wrapping up those final results. A former student teacher of mine in Broken Bow has gotten the okay from her school board, and she's testing her students in this last week of school. So the more and more schools we get on board with this, and it'll become an important piece, really honestly. So if it's not legislatively driven, it certainly will be driven by the districts and our school boards. So it definitely is going to take us locally to push this forward. I've also, again, included a brochure for the Cielo Literacy. This was tweaked at the fall conference based on input from teachers that were available at that session. And we also added some tests that we had not thought of as well. So this brochure was printed in color. It was taken to LPS and delivered to all the students that are in language programs. They're in the IB program. They're at Lincoln High and what have not. And so we did print these out in color because we thought it gave it a little bit more punch. And we also took them with us to Washington. We handed them out to other school districts. I've handed them out to my own personal students and parents to let them know that this is a big deal. I have also included a letter that teachers anywhere could use to present to their school boards prior to their presentation to get them to accept the biliteracy seal as an option in their school districts. And this, I believe, is already on the NILA website. It can be tweaked, and teachers can edit it in a fashion that they deem appropriate. And the last piece also was a step-by-step process that we also shared at the fall conference with teachers. This can be a very simple process. It just involves them getting up in front of their school boards and stating the reason for the importance of knowing languages. I think we're all pros at that. So if there are any more questions that you need answered about what we've been doing with advocacy, I would love to help you out with that. I also know NILA would. Feel free to call us. Feel free to email us. I'm sure I've bored you to death already enough. But thank you for your time, and note that we do enjoy doing this, and I couldn't imagine it having it any other way. So thank you.